first sentence in Paul, a servant of Christ. The identity there, right? If I asked you today, John, who are you, right? Tim, who are you? Andrew, who are you, right? Most people would tell you who they are based on what they do. But Paul here is clearly saying, I'm a servant of Jesus Christ. That's my identity. It's whose I am, not what I do. Going on, Post Sunday podcasters? We are so excited to be with you guys here today, episode 36. This is exciting. I am looking forward to it. I'm your host, Pastor Johnny Sierra. Looking forward to an amazing time with you guys here today. Episode 36. It's going to be great. We are opening in the book of Romans chapter 1. It is going to be good. We're going to be camping out here in Romans for quite a bit. And so I just ask you guys to really let that be part of your reading and studies throughout the next few months, because we're going to be really breaking it down and just digesting it, taking it in. But today we're going to just hone in on chapters 1. So I'm going to encourage you, listen, this podcast is a supplement to your daily walk. It is not a substitute. So in your own studies, we encourage you guys, go into the Word, read it for yourself, let God speak to you, let God reveal to you, let God transform you, and then come back and join us if you're not live already, and be a part of what we're doing. We're going to provide you guys, if you don't know, before we get things kicked off, a couple things. We're on social media. You guys know that, so follow us on all social media platforms at Post Sunday Podcast. But in each social media profile, there's a link there available for you guys for a discussion guide that is available from this talk here today and the ones in the past few weeks. You can carry that over to a small group. You can carry that over to your personal devotion time. But we want to just continue to be an extension and a help for you guys throughout the week, so you can continue to be in God's Word. That is what we desire for you guys, because the more you're in His Word, the more it's transforming you, the more it's doing great things in you. So, thank you for those tuning in live. We see you. Don't be quiet. Comment below where you're watching from. We love our live crew, man. But for those on demand too, thank you. You guys, we won't leave you behind. We love you. We give you guys a shout out. But I'm not here alone. I'm always accompanied with somebody, and usually that individual is our lead pastor, our host here as well in the Post Sunday podcast, the legend himself, Pastor Tim Grandstaff. What's up, man?
We have a crew today.
Oh, man.
We got a lot of people live with us today, which means they're highly interested in the content we're about to bring. And we got a bunch of people actually in the studio with us today as well, some guests. So this thing is popping today.
I'm low-key a little nervous today.
Better be on your game.
I better have my chips in a row, ducks in a row, as you say.
We got good mornings from John from, is that Barcelona, BC?
Give us a breakdown there.
From Claremont, from Maribel, we got a lot of people just hanging out today. Go. So we got a lot to talk about, a whole bunch to talk about.
Luciano so get ready on there.
This. So
John the Wise.
Over. Yep. Let's do it.
Go, Jennifer Campbell. Let's go. We got a good crew, man. Good crew. Appreciate you guys tuning in and being a part of what we're doing here today. Listen, there's a lot to unpack. Here in chapters 1 of Romans, but I kind of want to tee you off, Pastor. For those that are hearing us for the first time, thank you. Thank you for joining in and tuning in. The beauty of this pod, too, man, is that kind of wherever you fall into this pod, it's not like it's you got to watch from the beginning. Like each episode carries its own. And so thank you for being a part of that. But we love we here at Genesis, we do a lot of things in unison. And so what you hear today is what we're launching at Genesis Church Orlando. So if you're new with us and you're hearing for the first time, listen, go to genesischurchorlando.com/sermons. You'll be able to hear a little bit of what we're talking about today, but this pod's going to carry a little bit of a different angle as well. And so you're getting things from different angles and views. And it's kind of like how Paul is really writing a lot of these letters. Each region has their own issues and things that need to be addressed and tackled. And he's providing them with the solution, and it's one way. You know, and that's the beauty of the gospel, is that whatever you're dealing with, whatever your region, your personal life, your struggles, there is one ticket to redemption, one ticket to salvation, one ticket to freedom, and that is Jesus, man. And that is what Paul is doing here in the book of Romans as he's speaking to this Roman region about the gospel of Jesus Christ.
I think that the excitement that it generates is all based upon what you just said. Because when you open up Romans, it is a deep theological book. And there are a lot of people following Jesus that they would say, like, I'm not a theologian. You know, I don't think in those deep terms. But the masterpiece that he is crafting in this letter is just, it's profound in its theology and understanding. And that excites people.
Yeah.
There are many people watching. There are many people that will listen.
Yeah.
That their lives will be forever changed because of what Paul writes in Romans. It is the most written upon letter, or you would say book, in all of the Bible. So you have to step back just with that understanding and go, if more people have wrote commentaries or theological pieces or, you know, whatever it is about Paul and what he wrote in Romans, then I ought to sit up and pay attention to what's taking place inside of this, because whatever he's giving you is going to leave everyone with a choice. Either this is true and I have to choose to have faith and believe it, or I'm going to do exactly what he's writing in this letter. Yeah. I am going to choose to reject it. And so as he writes this letter, you know, they say it's written somewhere around 56, 57 AD after his third missionary journey. He probably wrote this while he was in Corinth. I think the beauty of the letter is that you understand right up front, he has not yet gotten to Rome. He can't wait to get there. So he hasn't visited yet. He's just heard. And he's excited about the opportunity of what will happen in Rome. And he is equally excited about the faith of the church in Rome. And so, we'll start at the beginning, but he will say later in this chapter, I can't wait to come and impart a gift to you, but also that we might mutually encourage each other. So he's like, I'm going to write this letter to you to hopefully encourage you, but I know because of what I've heard and how you're living for Christ, you're going to encourage me. Which takes me back to all the missions trips that we do, and we go on, and we always talk about, it's so amazing that you go with this mindset that when you visit this place, you're going to bring something to them that's going to be life-changing. And yet you are mutually changed in that same moment when you go experience it because of what they are doing, how they are living, how you see their faith, and then all of a sudden it challenges you to your core, and you come back and go, man, I think I received more than I got. And that's kind of like the baseline of what's taking place, you know, at the beginning of this.
That's so good, man. I like it. I'm excited. There's a lot to it. Honestly, it can be overwhelming with so much of the commentaries and things that are just so available to us when it comes to the book of Romans. But it's one of those books, man, that will, I think if you read it the way it should be, if you really deeply take a deep dive to it, it challenges you, but it lays out the foundation of what our faith is all about. Romans is about the gospel. Simple as that. It's the gospel. And it's a beautiful explanation of what the gospel is as it's been written. And if you want a clear definition, you got to go to the book of Romans, as Paul is laying it out there. Honestly, as we read, we'll get ready to read a little bit. First sentence in Paul, a servant of Christ.
Yeah.
The identity there, right? If I asked you today, John, who are you, right? Tim, who are you? Andrew, who are you, right? Most people would tell you who they are based on what they do. But Paul here is clearly saying, I'm a servant of Jesus Christ. That's my identity. It's whose I am, not what I do. And that is, I mean, he's laying it out there. And again, it's one of those kind of subliminal messages. Like you write it, but later on you get it after the fact. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Because the reality is, like, we want to identify ourselves in so much of what we do rather than whose we are.
Oh, that's good.
And Paul's laying it out there right from the very beginning. Listen, I haven't met you guys. I hear about you guys. I'm excited, but I need to let you know who I am, because it's going to tee up who Christ is. Because if you're ever going to meet me, you're going to know who Jesus is, right? Don't we want our lives to be like that? Hey, man, I feel bad for whoever ends up coming around my area, my sphere of influence, my surroundings, because they're going to know about Jesus, right?
Yeah.
I tell my kids and my family that all the time, because we have neighbors coming over and they're a part of, we built a great relationship, and sometimes it ties into the faith and what we've initiated by that, and sometimes it doesn't. But I always tell my kids and my wife, they're going to know that we love Jesus here. Like, we're not changing who we are. Like, if you don't want to be a part of what we're doing, I get it. But if you are, whether you're in or not, you're going to know we belong to Jesus.
That seems to be an underlining piece of this letter. There are believers in Jesus in Rome. They are, some would say at this time, Rome was probably about 1 million people. Obviously, it is the largest epicenter of the world. It's an empire. There weren't many other places you could go with that many people. And they say the church was somewhere maybe around the size of 100.
Wow.
Yet 100 people in the midst of this type of city were doing something so fascinating that Paul's like, I can't wait to get to you, see it, and be encouraged by it. And as you said, it's almost that reminder, and maybe today you just gave us all conviction, right? Like we all go back to our bios in our social media platforms and just go, servant of Jesus, because we put everything else, right? Maybe accept that, because he's using slave language. Yeah. It is a slave term that he actually is using in the Greek, and he's literally saying, I have a master, and therefore I'm an apostle, which it means sent one. My master is sending me. Wow. So later you'll hear him say, I'm obligated to do this. This is what I have to do because my master has told me. We have read in his other letters that he has said, I must obey God rather than man.
Yeah.
And he sees himself as under the authority of Christ, being sent out with the gospel of Jesus. And this is his purpose. And we were last night, we were with our high school students, and they had a special guest. And one of the questions was, how did you know, or when were you called to do this? And he said, we're all called. Everyone's called.
That's good.
He said, I just happen to play basketball. And God said, good, you're going to use your basketball talent as a platform for the gospel.
That's all, yeah.
And if we all step back today as we enter into Romans and we take that approach, I'm a servant of Jesus. He's my master. I live with him in authority over my life, my home, my marriage, all of those things. And I want to be a sent one for him. And then have that excitement of the gospel, because that's what he will say. And that word gospel is a first century term when a military leader would go out or come back from battle.
That's right.
When they had been victorious, and it literally meant good herald, meaning that moment where you open the scroll and you read and you pronounce and you proclaim there is a victorious battle that has been won. We are coming home. We've been victorious in it. We will celebrate. We will throw festivals. We will throw feasts. He goes, okay, let's take that term that in Romans. Exactly. We think it's a biblical term.
It's not a new terminology at all.
But contextually, he takes it. And he goes, all right, I know how you're thinking. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you about a totally different battle that has been victoriously won. And that is going to be the good herald that I'm coming to Rome with. And when I come, I can't wait for this harvest that's going to happen.
That's phenomenal. Man, you start to see that Paul, where he goes, he finds relatable things that he can attach himself to that would connect. He would find connection with people in that area, right? Like I'm speaking this, and this is the clear-cut message that I'm giving, but I'm finessing it under your understanding and your terminology and the way that you cultivate your life, right? So he's not oblivious to the culture around him.
Correct.
The language, what's important to people in that time. What is everyone talking about, right? I'm using those terminologies and references to paint a picture that leads ultimately to the message that I want to convey, and that is the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Yep.
I want you to understand that.
Right off the bat, he does this. He just kind of swoops through it. We read the intro because we want to bounce to all of the other content.
Yeah.
But within the intro, he is setting a foundation of theology, of really understanding the gospel that we think we have a grasp on, but we don't park in long enough to let it really, permeate our life and our mind and our understanding. He says, a servant of Christ Jesus, verse 1, called to be an apostle, set apart for the gospel of God. Then he says in verse 2, which he promised beforehand through his prophets in the Holy Scriptures. So he then takes this layer because there's Jewish believers and says, hey, everything you know about the sacred writings, the Holy Scriptures, all that the prophets, all that God had promised that we have been waiting to arrive through our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This is where it all came true.
That's good.
This is how it all came true in Jesus. And then he'll add concerning his son who was the descendant from David. So they've been waiting for, the next king. So he's tacking on these little things we just read through as just moments, but he's laying down the picture of what's taking place. And then he will, in essence, he will get to the moment where he will let them know, listen, this is about the Son of God. And when he uses that terminology, we only know it in our Christian thinking and biblical understanding now as, oh, he's referencing Jesus. But he's writing to Rome. And in Rome, Caesar is no longer there. Caesar is gone, but everything really was built around Caesar as the great, leader, the great emperor of Rome. I think at this point when he's writing, Nero is actually the one sitting on the throne. Yeah. But after Caesar dies, they pretty much herald him as a god. And they give him the title Son of God. This is the title given to Caesar as their god of Rome that everything evolves around. Yeah. And so when Paul's beginning the letter to Rome and he specifically chooses this language, he's already beginning to play a dangerous, you might say, political game. That everyone in the region of where you are living out your faith bends a knee and declares and worships and offers sacrifice to the Son of God, Caesar.
Wow.
But I'm writing you a different letter to let you know that Jesus is the Son of God, the true living God. So you could just stop right there and go, oh, he's coming fast. Yeah. And we don't get it. We move off of it. We just read right past it because we're like, well, let's get down to the next part. It's just the intro of the letter. He's just saying, hey, good to see you. I can't wait to come visit you. No, he's already going, I'm a servant of a master. I've come with a good herald. This is all a promise of God. And oh, by the way, there's only one Son of God. That's what I'm coming with.
He has no chill, bro. He's just, I'm coming and I'm coming hot. And I want you guys to know that if I come to visit you, you know what you're getting. You know the Paul that you're going to get. And yeah, no holds bar. No holds bar. He's hitting with this. That's why I say, again, it's so important for you guys just to just read and just marinate in scripture. Take your time. I think we talked about it last week, but just sitting with it, camping out with it, rereading it, right? It's something that I'm trying to discipline myself to reread the scriptures. If I don't get something, or if a distractive moment comes and I'm still kind of audio listening to it, then I want to pause and I want to get back to that again. I don't want to miss these things. And it's so important because it's these subtle little words that Paul is just popping in when he can.
Yeah.
But they're dynamite, man, within a mind. And when you realize it, you're like, whoa. Yeah,
this is like one of, like, the movies that they just start out in an action scene. Yeah. Some movies like build towards that big moment. Yeah. And then there's those movies where like the opening scene is like someone being chased down a dirt road and like guns are already firing.
Yes.
This is the beginning of Romans. This is not this subtle, just, hey, let me build towards a gospel presentation. This is Paul going, hey, this is the metropolis.
Yes.
This is the empire. And this is where we're going to make sure the gospel is permeating and changing lives. And I want to make sure that people hear, not only was it changing lives then, it has always been changing lives throughout history. And there's something powerful about Romans that have done it. There are many people that are watching or listening, and they would use terminology like, someone used Romans road to lead me to Christ. And what that is in the churches that we grew up is that is certain verses throughout the chapters of Romans that clearly tell you the gospel of Jesus. Many of those old tracts that people would hand out would have Romans road on them because the verses are so essential to understanding. So they've been changed by it. Yesterday I talked about, you have the great Martin Luther, who led the Protestant Reformation, whose 95 Theses pretty much had him running and hiding in a castle in Wartburg, Germany, where he's now, while he's sitting in this place and hiding, taking the Latin Bible, translating it into German so that normal people can have a copy of the Word of God. And I read this quote yesterday, but he said, I labored diligently and anxiously as to how to understand Paul's word. The expression, the righteousness of God blocked my way. So that's a big term with a lot of theology behind it. And he says, it blocked my way. As a matter of fact, it didn't just block my way. I did not love a righteous and angry God when I began to discover or learn about it, but rather I hated and murmured against him. Then I grasped that the righteousness of God is that righteousness by which through grace and sheer mercy, God justifies us by faith. Thereupon I felt myself to be reborn and have gone through open doors into paradise. I broke through, and as I had formerly hated the expression, the righteousness of God, I now began to regard it as my dearest and most comforting word possible. Like, that's the power in it. I was just telling you before we came on the air that two young gentlemen, both about 26 years old this week, both told me that when they learned in Romans about their sin and their debt and how their sin had a cost of death, eternally separating them from God, and how Jesus was the only one that could come and save them and rescue from that, it changed them forever. Two 26-year-old men this week, in two totally different spaces, two totally different conversations, telling me it was something in Romans, learning that set their life on fire for Jesus. That's what it's going to do as we march through all of this. And that's what Paul intends for it to do, because at the end of the day, in all of that beginning, he's reminding us, this isn't mine. It doesn't originate with me. This is God's story. This goes all the way back to his promise, what he said he'd do through Abraham, what the prophets said were coming, and what Jesus ultimately did on the cross for us. And so I'm just now the servant that's come to share that good herald, that good news of all of it to you.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody listening to us live or on demand here has just been lost ever before, either directionally with, mainly that. Yeah, I mean, just lost, couldn't find their location. And you're just, that stubborn individual that maybe just doesn't want to utilize the Google Maps. You kind of know your road and what you should do. And Paul's just kind of really trying to steer the ship back to God, to Christ. And the Romans right now are just, they've lost themselves in paganism, moralist views. They become very religious in what they are doing. They're making excuses. And Paul is laying out a clear compass of what the gospel is. And this is the direction that you need to take. And I think I just lays out such a beautiful way for us, because for a lot of us, we can drift. We can drift into our own understanding, drift into what the culture is trying to convey to us. In that, and listen, you may not verbally proclaim that, but your actions do, and your daily regimens do. Your daily actions and regimens will tell us more than what your words will. And so, is that something that is drifting away from God or going towards God? And Paul's being very clear about that with the Romans. He's like, listen, you guys have been drifting. With Christ, in God, there's no escaping God's judgment. But there's no excuses. We all have sinned. We have all fallen short. But this is how you get back. This is the compass that you need to get you directionally back to God in good standing.
Summarizing the next few verses, because there's a lot that I want to really kind of sit in for a few moments here with all of those that are with us today, and then those that'll listen this week. Obviously he's going to tell them, I can't wait to see you, impart to you, reap this harvest with you. But he'll also explain that this gospel is for, he'll use the word nations. He'll say for the Greek and the barbarian, for the Jew and the Gentile. In essence, he's reminding us immediately this is for everybody. The Greek and the barbarian, as we discovered, is, the Greek in their terminology in Rome, they were the wealthy, they were the prominent, they were the important, they were the educated. If you were none of those things and you didn't have that status, you were a barbarian. And there's a lot of people that are listening right now, including us. That's what we would have been. We would have been barbarians. We're not the most educated. We're not the wealthiest. We're not the prominent in Rome and this empire. And so Rome looked at those others as barbarians. And Paul's saying, hey, this is for them too, but it's also for you. And it's for the Jew, and it's for the Gentile.
That's good.
And we had a guest yesterday that was invited by someone that was Jewish, that said, if I, in their words, if I have it correctly, if I show up in a church, I'm going to spontaneously combust because I'm Jewish and I'm the reason Jesus isn't here. And it was like, you're right, but so am I. You're not the only one. All of our sin is the reason, right? It's not just one people or one group. We all have sin. You just said it. Let the cat out the bag. Next week, Romans 3, for all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. So Paul is now bringing everybody together going, it doesn't matter your status. It doesn't matter how educated you are. It doesn't matter what seat, what title, what status, how many followers, how influential you are on social media, whatever we would want to say. Jesus died for all of us because we all had a sin debt.
That's right.
And that is the baseline of where he's going. And so then he gets to Romans 1, which is a very familiar verse with some people, 16. For I am not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus. For it is the power of God for salvation for everyone who believes. And I want to read this because in studying a few weeks back, I was reading some commentary by Tim Keller. And Tim Keller said this. He said, the word translated can also mean offended. So he said, Paul's not only saying, I'm not ashamed of the gospel, but I'm also not offended by the gospel. And you go, okay, well, what would that mean? What would that look like? He says, the gospel, by telling us that our salvation is free and undeserved, is actually really insulting. It tells us that we are such spiritual failures that the only way to gain salvation is for it to be a complete gift. This offends moral and religious people who think their decency gives them an advantage over less moral people or people who do good deeds. He says the gospel is also really insulting by telling us that Jesus died for us. It tells us that we are so wicked that only the death of the Son of God could save us. This offends the modern cult of self-expression and the popular belief in an innate godness of humanity that we can save ourselves. He says the gospel, by telling us that trying to be good and spiritual isn't enough, thereby insists that no good person will be saved, but only those who come to God through Jesus. This offends the modern notion that any nice person anywhere can find God in his own way. We don't like losing our own independence and thinking we have to depend on someone else. And so he's naming these things that offend people. I don't like you telling me I can't just be good enough. I don't like you telling me someone else had to do it for me. I don't like you telling me that it's only through Jesus. There's not some other way that I can dependently come to this. That's offensive to many people. And so I love that picture that he's giving, that Paul's not just saying, I'm not ashamed. I'll talk about it anywhere I go. I'm also not offended by it, because I could easily be offended thinking I'm in control. I can do just enough. I can dictate the outcome of my life. And by telling me you can't, but it's freely given to me through Jesus, offends people. And we know this because this is why they don't want to hear it and they don't want to believe it.
Yeah. It confronts you. It confronts you in so many ways. And yeah, man, it's just Paul is unashamed, and being unashamed, man, it's one of those things. Like I'm willing to pay the price for this. And so Paul knows how to keep first things first. I'm not ashamed of the gospel. It should convict us, right? Because again, how does my life showcase me not being unashamed, verbally, visibly, in everything that I do? Am I living unashamed of the gospel of Jesus? And so examine your life. How does that look? How does that look? Do I push back? Do I close in when the conversation starts to get to this direction of Christ, right? Do I want to blanket my spiritual conversation with somebody just with God, right? And neglecting the Jesus part of everything, right? Because I think we're running into that a lot. People will accept you for saying anything revolving God, right? They'll that's what they'll take. But when you mention Jesus, like now you're hitting some other nerve. Now it's starting to get confrontational. Now the heat starts to crank up a little bit, right? And for a lot of us, we want to avoid that, and we want to blanket everything with just this God-centric conversation, knowing that like the target is Christ. Yep. I can't get to God without Christ. And so you're missing a step, man, if you are trying to avoid Christ within your conversations, within your life, and you're just trying to put the blanket of God over it. Christ is the key. That's what separates our faith from everyone else. It's Jesus. You take him out of the equation, we have nothing. We have no salvation. We're worthless. It's Jesus.
It's and or. It's both. Because you will have the people that would say, well, I'm not good at talking about it. But the scriptures will tell us always be ready to give an answer. At the same time, there are people that their lives don't match what they talk about. So the people that shy away to, well, I just want to live it, they'll see it in my actions, but then you never talk about it. And it's both. It's not one or the other. There are moments where the door is open for me to talk about it. There are moments when my life just needs to display it, and then that door will open for me to talk about it. I was with our elder on Friday, Jim, who had a heart procedure. And while I'm sitting in his house, he is telling me on Friday morning, before he is taken back for his heart procedure, he's praying with his wife, and then he tells her, hey, I'm gonna talk to this nurse about Jesus. So as only Jim would do, right?
Yes.
He's not going to go back for heart surgery where he might not come out at his age. And, that's what he's thinking maybe if something wasn't go wrong without telling someone about Jesus. And then he said he tells her about Jesus and she tells him, I believe in him. And can I tell you that was amazing that you would take that moment right now to make sure that I knew who he was? Equally, the doctor's about to come in and he's been told, don't ask questions of anything. He just likes to do his job. And Jim's like, oh, I'm asking him a question. He's not rolling me back without me talking to him. And so Jim's talking to the doctor, the surgeon that's going to perform the procedure. And then on the flip side, I'm listening to this young gentleman last night in front of our high school students who said that when he came to Christ, he's an NBA basketball player, and he was sharing his story with our students. And he said, my teammates, they dubbed me and gave me the name Baby Jesus. And he said, we used to always do like a group huddle prayer before the games. And it was just our Father who art in heaven. He said, and God just spoke to me one time to like speak up and go, hey guys, can I just pray for us now before the game? And just like pray a prayer, God, you're leading me to pray. He goes, that led to me praying before every game. He goes, and there was one guy that would mock me, baby Jesus, and all these things he'd say. He said, and I never confronted him. I just thought I need to be faithful before God and keep doing what God's asking me to do. And then he said, and I forget the details, but this player's family member, I think, lost a loved one. And out of the blue one night called him and said, we're completely broken. Can you do one of those prayer things that you do for us? So the very guy that had been mocking him is now calling him, and now he has an open door just because he was living it as well. So when Paul says, I'm not ashamed, it's both.
Yes.
There are moments people need to see it, but there's also moments you need to be able to talk about it.
Yes.
And that's the breakthrough for many people. Yeah. And so we take that as a challenge, and then he tells us in the next verse, because the righteousness of God is revealed. So this is where now he's starting to use that term Martin Luther was saying was hard for me to understand, that people hear this righteousness of God, which really is a biblical term in its simplest form of being made right with God. We are not right with God because of our sin. That's right. We cannot be made right with God by just doing good works. We are only made right with God because of the atoning sacrifice of his son, Jesus. And so when we think of this righteousness is not this holy perfection that some of us kind of carry this connotation with it of that's what I'm trying to achieve, or I'll never become this holy, perfect person. No, what you'll never be is right with God without Jesus. And therefore, the righteousness of God is being revealed in this good news of what Jesus did, that through faith in Jesus, just faith in Jesus, you can be made right with God when you were not right with God, and will not be made right with God without Jesus himself.
Man, back to Jim's story. Did he say all this stuff before the procedure? Because
I'm sure he did.
I would have waited till after, maybe, because these people, your lives are in these people's hands, bro.
Jim's thinking I might not come out of this. I'm telling you, because we know him. No matter what, I'm going to make sure the last person I see has an opportunity to be where I might go.
Amazing.
That's what's on his mind and in his thinking.
That's so good, bro. That's so good. But listen, for every excuse, man, I will tell you, we opened up yesterday was opening week for NFL. And let me tell you something, man. Everyone is fired up for their team. I think, honestly, at this point, the most unforgivable thing you can do as a sports fan is switch teams, right? That's kind of like the unforgivable sin. Like, if you do that, you're a joke moving forward. No one really has any respect for you anymore. So it's all about loyalty and staying with the squad no matter what. And I'm sitting around there, and I'm just like, I'm looking at certain teams, and I'm just like, how much more of this are you going to take? But they're not ashamed. And we know their history, and we know what they've been through. The future doesn't look bright. Bro, this is kind of your ticket, man. Like, I know it's the unforgivable sin, but they're unashamed. Like, it's crazy to me. And I say that because, like, we can stay through the rain, through the snow, through the whatever record our team, we'll stay loyal. We'll take the blows, right? And we're unashamed about it. We'll wear the apparel. We'll speak out. We'll defend, right? But I can't do the same for the gospel of Jesus. Like, just let that process a little bit. I'll puff my chest up and defend my team to the very end. But I can't do that, and I shrivel back to the corner because I just may not know what to say to some individual. Listen, we've shared this before, but your testimony carries so much weight, and no one can take that from you. And so right out the gate, you have something to utilize. I mean, how many times has Paul expressed his pain, what he's been through as a avenue to preach the word of God, right? He's used it. Has he needed to use theological conversations? Yes, but has he also needed to bring a flat out plain truth of what his life has been, what he's been through, but this is the price. It all leads to the same road, right? And so for a lot of us, man, we feel like we got to get to a certain place in our knowledge, in our theology, in our understanding. But listen, the very fact that you have been redeemed and you have been saved and you've been given a new opportunity and your life has changed completely from whatever you were before, that is enough for you, and that's enough weaponry for you to utilize to take with you and speak the gospel of Jesus to whoever comes your way. Don't wait for you to complete seminary. Don't wait for you to finish a season of the Post Sunday podcast. Don't wait for any of that, right? Now is your time. Now is your place. You have everything you need, right? And I say that because I fought with that for so long. I never felt adequate enough to speak confidently the word of God, or I felt like I needed to be the one to rescue them. But you don't. You just got to deliver the message. And that's why Paul, at the end of 2 Timothy, he's telling Timothy, please bring me my books, bring me my cloak, bring me the very things that can help me do the one thing that I know what to do and how to share the gospel. And that's writing these letters from where I am right now. Yep. I'm going to take what I have and I'm going to utilize it for the glory of God. What do you have right now? That's enough. You are more than enough. You have everything you need to spread the gospel of Jesus, man.
Your testimony is your story and God's story.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
If without God in your story, it is just a story. A testimony is what God did. And we know, and I have experienced, the greatest joys and excitement is to hear people's testimony.
Yes, bro.
To hear how they found their need for God, where they were at, how Jesus used this person or this moment or that person, and how it radically transformed their life. The problem is we don't know what to do with the fact that some of us believe we don't have a testimony. We think a testimony is only someone who can say, listen, I was hell-bent this way. And then I met Jesus on my Damascus road, Paul, and then God turned me around and went this way. Oh, their story's amazing. Yes, that God could save a wretched sinner like them. But Paul tells Timothy, cherish what was given to you since birth.
Yes.
And keep that and keep going with that. And so some people's testimony is the beautiful reality that not that you're better than people, but that you're able to tell a story of, listen, I didn't go down that path. I didn't consume those things. I didn't have premarital sex, not because I'm better than you. I was blessed to be taught it. And because I was taught it and I obeyed it, I don't have scars and hurts and regrets and pains the way that some people do. Once again, it's not I'm better than you. Mm-hmm. It's the beauty of, oh my goodness, for those that have found Christ who had that that moment before they met Christ to go, this is what I want for my kids or my grandkids. I don't want them to grow up and have this full wayward moment and then to pray they find God and come here. I want them to grow up with less scars, less hurts, less pains, less tragedies that we calls upon ourselves when we do things outside of the design of God. And Paul will speak into that because he will then begin to talk about the wrath of God, that there are choices we make in life that will have eternal consequences, but they also come with earthly consequences as well. He says in verse 18, for the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men, who by their unrighteousness suppress the truth. So bottom line right there, he says, we can give you the truth. There are still going to be people who reject it. They're going to think their truth is greater than God's truth, that their story will end better than the story God has for them. He tells Timothy, take the truth that was deposited in you and keep going with it.
Yes.
And so he says, but there's people that suppress that truth. They ignore it. They move past it. They laugh at it. They mock it. They scoff it. They can sit around and hear it, but they never want to actually receive it and believe it until maybe that rock bottom moment. And you want to go, man, you didn't have to get there. But you suppressed the truth that was being offered to you, and you kept doing it your way. And so he will say in the next few verses, this is what happens. God is there making it known to you all along the way, right? Verse 19. He's shown it to them, his invisible attributes, his eternal power, his divine nature. They've been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world. How? And the things that have been made, so that they're without excuse. So he says, ultimately, there's always the person who wants to sit with a cup of coffee and go, okay, let's talk about the person on the other side of the world that no one has taken the gospel to them. God's going to let them die today and go to hell without ever hearing about them. And you go, no, actually, Scripture says God reveals himself to everyone. And he's always been doing it since the creation of the world. Yeah. In everything that is made, it is an awareness that there is a divine creator to all of this. You don't have an excuse. You can't reject it. You can't suppress it. It's all around you. You just want to be blind to it and not have spiritual eyes to see it. And he says, because they're without excuse, they knew God, but they did not honor him as God and give thanks to him. And they became futile in their thinking, and foolishness in their hearts were darkened. So he says, their mind was just twisted. Their heart was hardened. They knew of God. They've heard him. My parents took me to church. I sat in mass. I heard this preacher one time on TV, but I just suppressed all that truth because I thought my truth was greater. And so I knew of God, but I never honored him as God of my life. Yeah. And I said yesterday, and I say today, there's an eternal difference between knowing of God and knowing God. An eternal difference. Because you will not be able to stand before God one day accountable to a righteous God who does have a wrath against unrighteousness, a righteous just judgment upon creation, and say, well, I knew about you, but I never had faith and trusted you. I heard about you, but I suppressed all that truth because I wanted to do life my way. And that's a dangerous, dangerous game to play in this world.
Man, that's so good, bro. God, you cannot deny God's existence. I mean, look at the very fact. Look at how wind blows, right? You don't see wind, but you feel it and you know it's there, right? I think ingrained in every human is this desire for God. There is this initial desire for God. There is this initial inclination for a higher power in our life to lean on, to take care of us, to gravitate to, and that's something I believe is ingrained in all of us since creation. And God is showcasing those things through his works in different areas with different people. So whether you're here in Orlando, Florida, or you're in West Africa, God's revealing himself to you in a different way. And we have to acknowledge that. But as you said, we're suppressing it. We're suppressing it. It's like holding a ball underwater, right? Like a beach ball.
Yeah.
You're trying and you're fighting, and you may hold it down for so long, but eventually it's just going to pop, and it's going to show itself to everyone. You can't suppress God that way. You're only lying to yourself.
I'll be on a plane Wednesday, and you watch people on a plane. What do? They open up the window, get their phone out, they start taking a picture of the clouds and the sun across. Why? Because it's beautiful. And there's something that just strikes you of the beauty of the world we live in when sometimes you're caught up in the ugliness of it. And there are those moments where you just stand back in awe and you go, this was the masterpiece that was created by an incredible God who took time to value how he created and put things into play. Yeah. And yet we find ourselves wanting to suppress that truth. And so he goes on, and I think this is where we want to unpack this for a moment, because he says those people that suppress that, they claim to be wise, but they're foolish.
Yes.
Because they exchange the glory of an immortal God for images resembling a God. And then it says, therefore he gave them up in the lust of their hearts to impurity, to the dishonoring of their bodies among themselves, because they exchanged the truth about God for a lie, and they worshiped the creature rather than the creator. First of all, 100% this is happening now. But Paul's also saying it was happening then. As we said, this was happening, and it still happens, which shows you sin in humanity in the world, why it desperately needs Jesus. But he says those people think they're wise, they're actually foolish, and they're exchanging the truth for a lie. And we hear this over and over again about the people that believed their own lie. This person's better for me than the one I chose to be married to. This group of friends was better for me than going that way. This entertainment was a lot more fun and pleasurable for me than if I did this. And so God, in essence, says he gave them up. It says, verse 26, for this reason, God gave them up to dishonorable passions. One great early 19th century poet, Irishman, Oscar Wilde, said this. He said, when the gods wish to punish us, they answer our prayers. Non-believer. He was like, when the gods wish to punish us, they answer our prayers, meaning the very things we ask for, by punishing us, they let us have them. People get what they ask for and what they choose. This is what now offends people. I don't want to believe you're God. I want to reject that horizontal relationship. I want to trade worship to the creator for worship with the creation. But then you're going to tell me that your God will let me do whatever I want to do and give me up to it. What type of God is that? Wait a second. You're illogically logical in your brain, and it doesn't work that way. You think you're wise, but you're foolish.
Yeah.
You've been begging to do life your own way, to enjoy your own pleasures. And then God says, okay, hands off, no blessing, no favor, because that's the way you want to go. You can have it. And then we turn around and get mad at a God we don't want to believe in for actually giving us the freedom to choose. Oof. This is the problem with creation right here that Paul's talking about.
Yeah, bro. It's so true. Worship is not optional. It's hardwired within all of us. That's what I was saying earlier. There's something within us. The only question we have to ask ourselves is, what or who are we worshiping? Money, success, relationships, even ourselves, right? They all can become idols when they are replacing God. And Paul's telling them that. You're replacing these temporary things with an everlasting God. That's going to be that's the road that you're willing to die on. You have to take inventory. What does your time, your thoughts, your energy truly say about your worship? About who you're worshiping or what you're worshiping? Because the Roman Empire was all about power. They were all about beauty. They were all about wealth. And Paul's breaking this down and saying, listen, you guys got it all wrong. You have it all wrong. but your consequence will come because that's what you are allowing. That's what you want. That's what you desire.
Yeah. He then begins to unpack what the dishonorable passions are.
It's an array.
And he will say this in verse 26.
Let's pop it up here.
For their women exchange natural relations for those that are contrary to nature. Verse 27, and the men likewise gave up natural relations with women and were consumed with passion for one another, men committing shameless acts with men and receiving in themselves the due penalty for their error.
Wow.
This is one of the most controversial passages in Scripture, specifically in our modern day and in time. It is the longest passage written that Paul clearly explains about homosexual relationships. And we have a society that in some way is trying to somehow look into this and suggest that the traditional understanding of this is wrong. That it's not quite what was meant, it's mistaken, because he wasn't talking to people who were lovingly together with each other. They were committing shameful acts against each other and all of those things. And yet the clarity is this. Paul has already been taking everyone back to the beginning of God's story. There's a creator and there's creation. And since the beginning of it all, he's been declaring his glory. And now he's talking about the order of creation. And he's talking about the way that God designed it to be. He's not just simply talking about a law in the Old Testament. In essence, he's talking about the structure of how God created the world to be. We have a clip that I was showing you earlier from what I believe is one of our modern day best apologists, archaeology, studiers of archaeology and the Codex, Wesley Huff. And he had this beautiful moment where he was talking about sexuality amongst Christians and the rest of the world. Play that for a moment, let people see that and hear that.
Pop that up here. Here we go.
We used to use things and love people, and now we use people and we love things. When Jesus says, one man, one woman for all time, that's it. And if you don't like that, well, there isn't another option. You can become a eunuch for the kingdom. You can submit yourself to celibacy. Those are the options. That's countercultural in the day, in a world that is prolifically sexual and doesn't see sex as something that is sacred. Whereas Christianity says sex is sacred because bodies are sacred and image bearers are sacred. And there's a respect and an accountability. These concepts that we have in modern society about sex, I think they're confused because in one sense we want to say, OnlyFans, you can give your body to whoever you want. It doesn't matter. It's just bodies rubbing together. And at the exact same time, we also realize that rape is a terrible violation. Well, which is it? Is sex just something you can give away at any time? Or do you realize that this is something that holds a pretty significant intrinsic value, that when it's violated, it goes beyond the physical? I think that's where our society is confused, and that's where we need to speak into these situations and show that some of these things are actually sacred.
I love that he uses the word sacred, because as Christians, we're to see everything as sacred and spiritual.
Yeah.
Specifically sexuality. Because at the very beginning of God's story, he says that we are image bearers. That's what he created us for in this world. We are to bear the image of God before other people. So he will come along later and he will tell the nation of Israel, I am giving you these laws of how you are to live in every area of your life, including your sexuality, so that you will be set apart. You will be an image set apart for the rest of the nations to see and know that I am God. Paul is writing to believers in a very sexualized city. Rome was very, very dark in its sexuality. There was rape and there was incest and there was homosexuality and there were all these things that were going on. And he's reminding them as Christians, followers of Jesus, your sexuality is to be sacred. It is to be set apart. And I love, it can sound cynical that Wesley Huff in that video clip said, there are two options. One is the way God intended it to be, man and woman for one lifetime, one flesh. The other was this, be a eunuch. That's what we see in Scripture, because that sets you apart as well. I will not give in to the passions and the lustful desires that I have. And so he writes in this passage, women gave up their natural relations with a man for unnatural ones, and men gave up their natural relations the way God intended for unnatural ones. And this was what they were given over to, this impurity, this desire, this all-controlling drive sexually, that I need to have the pleasure that I want. I need to be happy the way that I want. I can love who I want. I can claim what I want to be. And he says, not for Christians. Not for Christians. And so we have to understand this in our faith, and we have to be teaching it to our children. The amount of parents that are coming along saying, well, I'm going to let them figure it out. Or we don't really talk about sexuality and sex in our house too much. We'll figure it out. I tell people all the time, if you're letting them figure it out, they're doing it from somebody else. You are called by God, Deuteronomy chapter 6, to love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your might. Yeah. And these commandments today are not just to be on your hearts. You're to bring them into your homes. Put them on the frames of your doorhouses. Teach them to your children. When you walk along the road, when you get up, it is supposed to be in your home. You are supposed to indoctrinate your home with the good news of Jesus because you have found the truth. Do not suppress that. Do not hide that. Do not talk about that. Let them know about that. And tell them, yeah, I might have messed up. My testimony has a lot of shame and guilt and regret because I slept around and I thought my body was just something I could give away and I didn't see it as sacred before I came to God. But now I know. And God made me pure again. And I don't want you to walk the path that I did. I want you to know your body is sacred. I want you to hold yourself before marriage. I want you to be pure and be able to give all of yourself to your husband or your wife on that night as a gift the way God intended it to be. We've got to talk about it. We've got to not be ashamed of it. We can't suppress the truth, and we're not going to trade it for a lie. And so he will say at the end of this, not just that they did that, he will talk about other sins. So let's be clear on that. He says they'll have a debased mind, meaning their mind is just as wicked as it gets. They're filled with all manners of righteousness, covetousness, malice, envy, murder, strife, deceit, maliciousness, gossip, slanderers, haters of God, boastful, inventors of evil.
You just make up something that's
right?
evil.
And what do we have? We got so many letters and numbers and identities of what people want to claim to be. They're just inventing stuff now. You can't figure out how many identities and sexual ideologies people are carrying because they're just inventing it. They're foolish, faithless, heartless, and ruthless. But then he says this in verse 32. Though they know God's righteous decree that those who practice such things deserve to die, you have rejected God. That is the path you deserve. He says they not only do them, but they give approval to those who practice them. He says you somehow find a way to exchange the truth for a lie, suppress the truth, do what you want to do. And then you also want us to take the scriptures and the truth of God and find a way to approve it in someone else's life and allow it to happen and be okay with it. And God's not okay with it. And we need people who are not ashamed to stand on the truth of it. It does not mean we are perfect people, but it does mean that we are people that are building our lives upon the truth of God's word. And when we are wrong, we do what we are supposed to do to be made right with the God that we believe is the one and only true God who through Jesus has rescued and saved us. And ultimately, when you hear that, remember Paul first said, I can't wait to come reap a harvest with you. Because of what's going on. All this stuff is happening. All this evil and wickedness is taking place. All these people are rejecting God and their relationship with each other, and they're just tossing their bodies around to whatever. And he's saying, those are the people that need Jesus. That's what the good news is coming for. You don't have to live a life of brokenness and hopelessness, filled with rage and envy and slander and murder and fighting and giving your body away because you're trying to find love and be accepted or pleasure or happiness. Jesus brings you everything you need. I can't wait to come herald this. And so while it feels like it ends on this really hard, sinful, dark note, don't forget where he was. And just read the next few chapters where he's going. But he's letting us know sin is real.
Yes.
And sin angers God.
Yes.
And sin has consequences. And ultimately, if we reject God because we choose sin, we will reap the consequence of that rejection of God eternally forever. And he says, I want that for you. There's a truth. It's found in Jesus, and it can change everything.
Yes, man. Let's go, bro. You want to push God out, okay? Get ready to reap the fruit of your choices. You can't push God out and then get mad at him later that this is the outcome of how your life has been. You don't get to be a part of both. You pick and choose which one you want.
Right.
You either allow God in or you push God out. And there's fruit behind each and every one of those choices. You know, the frightening thing about this is not the judgment and the fire that will rain upon your decisions. It's God letting you have your way. That's the frightening part. And we serve a God that is just enough to and merciful enough to still let you have your way and not control you. But you are going to reap the consequences of that decision, whether you like it or not.
The total depravity of man in this is what you will theologically come to understand. Yeah. A lot of people may not understand that term in this moment, but it literally is at the baseline. Sin has infected everything in this world since Adam and Eve in the garden because of one man's sin, right? Adam. And some people are, well, that's not fair. Yeah, but guess what? You're hearing the truth right now, and you're still choosing sin, and you could choose not to. But that total depravity is now that realization that I am eternally lost, and I'm currently in this life now on a road of hopelessness and darkness without Jesus. And the beauty is that God loved you enough in all of that to send Jesus to rescue and offer salvation to you. And by faith, not to keep doing what you're doing, but by faith to believe it and now allow yourself to be set apart, you not only receive that good news, that good herald, you become now a representative, an apostle, a sent one, an ambassador of that good news, that good herald. When people go, what just happened to you? Jesus did.
That's right.
And everything changed because of it. I was once lost, but now I'm found, right? It's the beauty of the song.
That's right.
And that is what total depravity is. It's that realization that I am completely lost without Jesus, no matter how I spend this. And I'll spend the rest of my life going down the deepest, darkest roads I don't want to go down that lead me nowhere without Jesus changing me, transforming me, and setting my feet now on a firm foundation.
Man, let's go, man. Listen, Paul's not wanting to shame us, but Romans has an awakening about it. Wake up. He's not trying to shame us.
Yeah.
Calling things out as they are is not shaming. If anything, it wakes you up to the realization. Maybe you're just so lost in the weeds and seeds. You got to step back and say, oh my gosh, I haven't seen it this way. And that's what Romans does. Takes you out of the weeds and seeds to then look and see, hey, this is what you've been under. Let's get out of it. Let's get back to what God has originally wanted to do since day one with you in your life.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, man. So, brother, this has been fantastic.
Buckle up.
If this is the way Romans is going, woo!
I mean, somebody needs to pass this on.
Get ready, people. Yes. Pass it on. Pass it on. Guys, how do you do that? How can you pass this podcast on? Listen, go into Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, and within your social media network, wherever you like to post, listen, just put up a story of either one of our clips, of the podcast itself, an episode. Share it within your story. Share it within a post. Tag us on it so that we can show you some love as well. But that honestly is, at its simplest form, one of the easiest ways that you can share Jesus, right? It's not about us, trust me, wanting exposure in any way. It's about glorifying Jesus and making sure that he is known and he is being glorified, that we are not just doing a deep dive study here and filling ourselves up with all these extra carbs and calories of the Word of God. No, it's about us releasing it, getting it out there, giving it to people, letting them know everything that God has done in and through our lives. And so you can do it as easy as that. Share it, like it, subscribe, hit that notification bell, especially on the YouTube channel. That way you can get our YouTube page and our videos up, available for you guys. We've been putting a lot of time into that. So, yeah, really thankful, guys, everyone that's joined us online live today. Good crew out there. We really appreciate you guys. We see you. And those that'll be on demand throughout the week, man, we see you guys as well. And we love you tremendously, man. We hope that we have kicked off the book of Romans chapter 1 in a way that encourages you, in a way that awakens you, but gets you ready for the next few months that we're going to be unlocking this beautiful letter that Paul has written. I have the privilege of being able to bring a word next week, so I'll be on the hot seat. It'll be pretty good. But yeah, we'll have stay tuned to the socials because we got some news to share with you guys on what'll be coming up here in the next week for our podcast and all of that. So, man, I'm thankful. Any last words, my friend?
That's it, man.
Let's go. Super thankful for you guys. Love you. We can't wait to see you guys back here next week. But until then, grace and peace.